I wanted you, if you can, since we're dating in a rapid pace here, how would you describe DBS in less than a minute?
DBS, besides standing for Development Bank of Singapore, is the new Digital Bank of Singapore.
Yes. Simple as that.
Simple as that.
Okay.
Yep.
So it's interesting. It was the Development Bank of Singapore, so its roots were in the history of building Singapore as a trading nation. What was that role originally, its mandate?
Actually, the original mandate, DBS was formed under a Parliament Charter, and it was really on the infrastructure of the country. You have to realize that Singapore is a very young country, and when we first started, it was a very poor nation. So it was important to have a development bank that really catered for the infrastructure, the roads, basically the infrastructure of the country. That's the roots of DBS.
Okay.
Yep.
Before we get into the bank, I'm going to ask the guys on the audio side, can they raise it? Because I can barely hear Mr. Lim.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if you're struggling with the same because there's so much noise outside in transit. Is it okay there? Okay, perfect. Thank you very much for that.
Yep.
It's fascinating to watch as I started coming into Dubai and Abu Dhabi thereafter since 1990. And I used to think it was the Hong Kong model of economic development, but in fact it's the Singapore model of free zones, free trade, connecting your financial services to the trading nation, a highly educated workforce,
Yep.
a government employee that's paid well, so it eliminates corruption.
Yep.
What are the similarities that you see sitting in Dubai to the Singapore of today, would you say?
I think you rightly pointed out yourself that the model that Dubai has, is similar to Singapore. But today, I think we can learn from them. They learned from us yesterday. Today, we can learn from them, and hopefully tomorrow we'll learn from one another. So the government and the private sector work quite hand in hand with one another. And we let the free market sort of determine the course of how it goes. I think Dubai is a great example of what leadership can do to the country.
Yeah, and so is Singapore for that matter,
That's right?
And sustain it, I think.
Sustain it, that's
Is
right.
small more fashionable to make things happen, though? Do you find the smaller trading nations are having much more success in the 21st century to be able to introduce fintech, new policies, change course if you need to? Has that been the art of Singapore?
Singapore have the advantage that we are a small city state.
Yes.
So we can move relatively quick and we are quite agile. I guess Dubai share quite similar to us. But I wouldn't say that it's easier or more difficult for a small city state. It's really, I think, the leadership of the country. If the leadership of the country is able to do it, whether it's 1 billion people or whether it's 5 million people, they'll be able to do it. I mean, you just look at China today, where they have come from, let's say 30, 40 years ago. It's an amazing story.
So let's get into the banking world and some of the cross currents. I talked, as you saw, with Roberto Acevedo about the power of the dollar and being used as a weapon.
Yes.
I think it's great to get value-added assessment and analysis from somebody sitting in Singapore. Do you see the U.S. dollar fading away anytime soon, or the rise of the renminbi at a faster pace than most are expecting? Because we're trying to look at here the near term.
Okay, that's a very good question. Before I answer the question, let me give you sort of a slight preamble to it.
Sure.
When the Roman controlled the roads, they controlled the world. That was called the Roman Empire.
Yes.
When the British controlled the sea, they controlled the world. That was called the British Empire. So the Americans came along and thought if they control air and space, they will control the world. And so they were shocked when Russians sent Sputnik into space in 1957, and they were shocked when Yuri Gagarin went to space in 1961. And then John F. Kennedy retort was that let's put a man on the moon. And actually, because of that race, in 1969, the Apollo 11 landed on the moon. And that was really the start of the third industrial revolution, which was the digital age. Now, I digress a little bit from your question.
Makes sense. I follow you.
But the reason why why today is the American empire is really because of the US dollar. President Nixon, I don't know whether he realized it, when he depacked US dollar from gold, which gave America the ability to print money, it really made America the most powerful nation in the world. You look at QE1, you look at QE2, you look at QE infinity.
I know.
Not billions, not hundreds of billions, the trillions of dollars that's being printed. It's probably backed by the paper it's printed on. So, put simply, it's backed by confidence and confidence alone. Now, to touch on an earlier point about weaponization, the American weaponizing the US dollar in this as we speak today actually undermine the only thing that's propping up the US dollar. The only thing propping up the US dollar is confidence and confidence alone. And by weaponizing the US dollar, it might be good in the short term, but in the long term, there's tremendous repercussion for the country.
Yeah, so you're not a supporter of it, obviously.
I'm not a supporter of it, yes.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
What do you think of this move by China asking to pay for its oil and gas to Saudi Arabia? What does that tell you about China?
Okay. China has been wanting to do that for a number of years, I think. And the Saudi has never agreed to it until this month, actually. So it's a tremendous, significant decision. And I'll tell you why I say that. Now, you look back in 1971, when the US dollar depegged US dollar from gold. Why would anybody want US dollar? Because right now, we don't know what it's backed by. But the fact that the US dollar is the dominant reserve currency in the world until today is because they have an agreement with the Saudis that oil, a most crucial commodity, is bought and sold in US dollar. By having it, that's why the term petrodollar came about.
Yes.
And because of that, the demand for dollar was always there. And because the demand of the dollar was always there, even when they depegged US dollar from gold, when we know it may not be backed by anything, dollar continued to be a strong reserve currency.
Right.
So this month, the decision by the Saudi government to let oil be sold in renminbi, I think it's a significant, tremendous significant decision. Okay, I don't know whether the Saudis are aware, but by agreeing to the US to trade oil in US dollar, they were probably a major reason why today is the American empire as we know it today. The Saudis have really contributed to the position that US dollar is in today. And this recent decision to use renminbi, I think has significant implication in the long run.
Good. I wasn't planning to go in this direction with you, but I think it's very interesting and you're super smart. Why don't we get the wider implications of strained Saudi-US relations? Again, looking at it from that vantage point, I don't think we've seen this level of tensions in the last 4 years under President Trump and even with Joe Biden between Washington and Beijing right now. Does this get worse? Is this the next shock that people want to know about at the WGS in 2022?
Okay, this is a tough question, and this question is slightly above my pay grade. But let me try. And,
I don't see you shying away, though.
Let me try. When you have the two largest economy in the world, and if they were best of friends, it would be good for everybody. Then the world is really in harmony and we trade with one another. When you have two of the largest economy in the world, and the animosity among the two of them, it makes it very difficult for the smaller nations around. We are like, when two elephant fights, sure, we get trampled on. Now, would the world move from globalization to regionalization? Would there be some form of bifurcation? Is globalization dead? I think it's under stress. I don't think it's dead. I think Roberto mentioned earlier, the way we are connected, the way technology binds us together, I just don't see how we can reverse back that we are so interconnected. Hopefully the relationship is right now under stress, but one day they will kiss and make up and we'll live happily ever after.
But this nearshoring,
yes,
and regional trade amongst ASEAN, do you think it'll accelerate? Is that the one lesson out of the pandemic as opposed to being protectionist? Do you find like a Goldilocks scenario where you do balance out your sourcing? Okay,
that is a good point too. I think it is a Goldilocks scenario. And, but given what has happened, there is a certain form of national agenda whereby we can't be too dependent. Just like I think Roberto mentioned earlier, you have to say that sometimes it might cost a little bit more, but you want some production in your own country, just that you're not 100% dependent on somebody else. What we have seen the last 2 years show that this is like maybe it's a tail risk, but it is a risk that happens. So I think it will accelerate ASEAN, intra-ASEAN trade, and probably within the Asia-Pacific region with China. I mean, China is a big player, like it or not, in our backyard.
I know, absolutely.
Yeah.
So it accelerates. This is the one benefit of these disruption, right? That
yes.
It does accelerate change.
Yes.
I wanted to get your snapshot, and we're going to delve into it with our next guest as well. What is the future of money? Because it's rare that we hand over hard cash in London, where I'm living today.
Yep.
Cash is getting less pervasive even here with the dirham, right?
Okay.
What do you see in 10 years?
Okay, that's also a very tough question. I don't have the answer to that, but I'll tell you how I will approach it. One, money as we know it today and the US is a reserve currency, I think will be stressed. Governments that are not aligned with US policy would start wondering, should I keep US dollars, should I keep US treasuries? And if I don't agree with US then weaponize it against me. So I think that question is in most government mind. Okay, if I'm running any government, that will come to mind. A currency being backed by commodities, a basket of commodities I think would be best. But I don't know if we'll go that way. China has been pushing for that. Now, we have cryptocurrency today, we have stable coin today, we have central bank digital currency today. So there's a lot of question, is there going to be a change? Will the future of money look different? Now, I don't know the answer, but I do know that status quo as we know it, I think won't stay, given all that has happened.
It won't stay.
It won't stay. Yeah, I don't believe it'll stay the same. How does it move forward? I don't know. Now, the term cryptocurrency is a little bit of a misnomer, okay? Because crypto, I think, comes from the Greek word that means secret. And currency, if you are money, you must satisfy three rules. You must be a unit of account. That means I can measure, you can, price it. You must be a medium of exchange. That means it's widely acceptable by everybody. And it must be a storage of value. So cryptocurrency is really a digital token, so I think it doesn't satisfy the first two, a unit of exchange and medium of exchange and a unit of account. So it's not really money per se,
Well, I was wondering, and maybe I'm just being too simplistic, but it could almost be like the ECU, which preceded the euro, right? It was a trade-weighted basket of currencies.
Yes.
Couldn't you evolve to a cryptocurrency that we could agree on with 10 of the leading currencies of the world, and that's our instrument?
I haven't thought about that. I don't know, to be honest with you, I don't know. If it's tied against a basket of currencies, I'm not so sure. If it's tied against a basket of commodities, maybe. Because I don't think anyone wants to be beholden to any other countries or block of countries.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So tell me, what is making DBS so successful in digital banking? But I was wondering what discerns a DBS from anybody else in your market, or for that matter, around the world? What would you say?
If I have to put it in one word, I think it's leadership. If I have to put it in two words, it's really my group CEO, Piyush Gupta. I think the vision of that man, the strategy that he has put in for us, has really taken the bank to the next level now. We decided that given the way the fintech has come on board and the way they have challenged the bank, in fact, if I look back, fintech is the best thing that has happened to the banking industry because banks are regulated. So because we are regulated, we cannot innovate too fast because all the regulations will tell us all the 10 reasons why we cannot do it. But when the fintech arrived, even regulators realize that if the banks don't change, we'll be finished. And because of that, we are able to adapt. Now, if I have to explain what we did the last 12 years, we look at what's happening and we say that we have to augment our service. We call it augmented banking. And the response to augmented banking was that we digitized the entire bank from front to end. The second area, we call it open banking. Open banking is where in the past, you come to the bank, you do banking product. But now with technology, you can connect through your API, upstream, downstream, side stream. So you come and you are using a bank without even realizing that you are using a bank because we are so embedded into your payments. The third area that we have...
You use the terminology API?
API, applicable program interface.
Oh.
Yeah. So you can connect with all your vendors upstream and downstream.
Sure.
The third area that we look at is cognitive banking. Cognitive banking is really the intelligent bank, N equals 1. And we learned that again from the fintech. I'll tell you what I mean by that. Facebook never called me to sell me anything. But if they have 1 billion customers and they get 1 billion customers to do 5 transactions, and each transaction is $100, that's a 500 billion top line revenue.
Yes.
But nobody calls me. They nudge me. They know what I look at. They know what I'm interested in. They know I'm looking at whiskey bottles. They start nudge me. Then I don't do anything. The next time I go in, they show me some comparison. Then I don't do anything. Then they go away. They're not in your face. And 2 months later, they come and remind me I was interested in this. And then I buy it. So the same concept is that for us in banking, we have 3 acronyms. We call it next best nudges, how we nudge our customers to invest, how we know that John is interested in China, Japan, cybersecurity, electric vehicles, metaverse. So we only nudge you with the right information. Now, if you are a higher end customer, then we have what we call the next best conversation, NBC. And that's where we know that when my relationship manager calls you, he knows what to discuss with you because he knows what you're interested in. So from the way you enter our web page, we know exactly where you go, how long you spend in each web page, what you're interested in. And then it leads to the next best action. So that's the cognitive banking of what we are doing.
How far along are you on that path?
Let me finish the 4 quadrants. The last part is called automation banking. Automation banking is something that the banks have started many years ago. It's basically straight-through processing. Now, the way we look at it in DBS is we design for no ops, we design for no branch, we design for no cash. So when we come up with a new product, we're trying to do it such that it's seamless, straight through. Okay? And all these 4 quadrants is anchored by what we call engineering banking, which is really regutting our entire technology and making sure that everything seamlessly move from into a very agile waterfall, from waterfall to an agile manner. So you ask how far are we along in that. Different quadrants, we are at different pace. Digital banking, we have done quite well. We have been named best digital bank in the world by Euromoney, I think 2 years in a row. Ecosystem, connect with our vendors up and down, I think we still need to do a better job. And let's say in a market that we are big in, like in our own home market, that's easy because we can really sort of be the orchestrator to connect all the dots. But if we are in a market like Indonesia or China where we are really, really small, then we have to participate in somebody and leverage somebody's ecosystem to really target the customers. Cognitive banking is something that we are putting a lot of effort in this year right now, to understand exactly, build the foundation of all the data on our customers and what we have, so we know how to target them.
Good. Isn't that all a little bit too much? Yeah. Does the customer want you to have that much insight into my consumer spending or my planning, or are you pushing them in the right direction, for example?
We nudge them, we don't push them. We nudge them.
That's a nice way of saying it, but I get a lot of phone calls, a lot of cold calls, because my dad has shared.
Okay, that's the point. We don't want to call you.
Yeah.
And most of us don't like to get this kind of cold calls. But if I nudge you with the right interest, I know what you're interested in, I send you the right report, eventually it's all self-fulfilled. Nobody calls you. So the advantage, to transform banking, I think banks as we know it today will be different from banks of tomorrow. Even the blockchain technology, the decentralized, DeFi, decentralized finance, it's going to change banks as we know it today.
It's interesting. If I look at the ideal customer, so you've gotten awards as a very good digital bank, what is the ideal high net worth customer doing with you? They're doing their utilities, they have your wealth management, they have the mortgage with you, they're buying their car loans through you. Yeah. What else? What's the profile in 5 years of that ideal customer?
Okay. Let me answer it the other way around. I would want to approach it whereby, what are we doing for the customers? And if I have to put it very simply, we are in the business of finance. I want to create wealth, I want to enable success, and I want to enrich their life. Wow. Okay? So now, in the course of doing that, how do I create wealth? How do I enable success? How do I enrich their life? The wealth customers, beside the fundamental everyday banking that they do with us, how do we show them different structures? How do we help them, with foundations? How do we help them if they want to contribute back to society? How do we help them with legacy planning? How do we help them, plan, because second generation may not want to do the same business. Wow. So that's my ideal kind of customers, and that's
so you put it literally all under one umbrella then,
yeah, right? Yeah. So we have between the most basic customers to the most sophisticated customers, we know exactly which level that you're at and what we can serve you with.
Good. Yeah. How do you help them graduate? Do they, if somebody, for example, decides to get married when they have children, what does that interface now lead them to, and how do you change that relationship? Very interesting. Okay.
So it's not exactly cradle to grave, but like in Singapore, we start with babies being born, having babies account. So at a certain stage in your life, we call it sort of your pivotal moment. You buy your first car, you get married, you have children. So by knowing them, we know how to help them plan for their retirement, or plan for the kids' education, or buy the first car, or buy the first mortgage, buy the first home. So we are really with the journey, really from cradle to grave. So there's a lot we can do. We're in the business of really creating wealth, enabling success, enriching life.
Good. How difficult is it for a customer to change? What prompts a customer to leave a bank? Now you have a very good track record, so I would imagine it's pretty rare.
It happens.
But yeah, but what's the radar that goes off where somebody just says, I've had it with you? And I'm sure you try to do everything to avoid that, right?
It's what we call customer's journey. You know, when the customers have a very bad interaction with you, that's when the customers get so pissed off that they say they'll go to another bank. You know, so one of the things that we look at, and if you look at technology that we had in the past, we were organized in a vertical structure. So I do this, you do that. It ding dong to you, it doesn't work. Ding dong back to me, ding dong back and forth. So it take like a long time.
Yeah.
But with the technology that we have today, we have to reorganize the way the bank is run. So we are looking at a horizontal organization and we manage to journey. So if you want to get a mortgage, from the day you apply and the entire process to the day you get the money to buy a mortgage has to be managed horizontally rather than vertically. So we are in the midst of really reinventing ourselves to see how we run the bank in a horizontal fashion, and we call it managing to journeys. And we have a DDOM, a data-driven operating model that's like a dashboard, like a control tower. We know from here to here how many days or how many hours it takes for it to process. You know, and if let's say, you know, your credit card, your debit card didn't work before you call us, the data to show that your card didn't work, and when you call us, we know why, or we call you in advance to let you know that's happening. So if we can really make it make banking joyful, we can make it such a wonderful experience, customers will stay with us. Most of the time, even if you're a good bank, you do have hiccups whereby customers are just pissed with the, you know, your response and service. That's when you move.
But it's making it much more intuitive as a banker, I would imagine. What a pleasure. Thanks for joining us. We had a fantastic conversation coming into this, which led to a much more robust conversation in 20 minutes.
Thank you.
A nice round of applause for Sim Lim. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Nicely done. Really terrific.